the Pop Cult Online Power Hour, the video podcast dedicated to the 10-year-old in all of us. And I'm your host, Rick Gordon. Watch along as Malibu Bob Breethall and I talk about things that we like and nobody else does. Well, that may or may not be true, but join us and we'll be right back after these brief messages.
Ever notice how some colas have more bubbles than you really need? We did. So we made Shasta Cola a little bit different, with just enough bubbles instead of too many. So Shasta tickles your tummy instead of your nose. And that's why so many people are drinking Shasta Cola already.
Shasta, the cola that has stuff. Tastes just identical to Shasta. It makes a differently. You've got to try to see Shasta, the cola that has stuff.
Get Shasta Cola, the one with great cola taste and just enough bubbles to tickle your tummy.
Good morning, world. Good morning to you. Well, I'm wearing my Levi's. 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 Bright, shiny world. Well, I'm ready for you. Wearing my Levi's. Levi's. Levi's.
Janine yelling upstairs saying yes because she heard me talking. You're not recording yet?
Oh, yeah,
I'm
I can
doing a podcast. I'll close the door. So as you do not think I'm talking to you.
Okay.
Should I be wearing the cowl?
Oh, hey, let me ask you something first. Do you hear any strange sounds? Like any crackling or static or humming or anything like that?
My speakers are turned down, so let me turn them up a little bit. Talk again.
Hello, hello.
Nope.
Beautiful.
No.
Okay. I'm going to use my gaming headset. Let me just do one thing and I'll come right back.
Okay.
Turn on the lights. Let there be light.
What is the topic for tonight? Did you know?
I really didn't have anything, but I really did kind of want to talk about the 70s because that seems to be our favorite topic, and the little bit of Agent Carter that I caught really, I really liked it.
You don't want to talk about women with really vigorous bushes and other common things from the 70s?
Well, again, that would bring us back
Keep this
to
be
Haley
keep this
Atwell.
to be an all-ages podcast.
Family friendly. Let's see. Get rid of this. Turn this up. Oh, there we go. Okay, so we're all settled in. Normally, I like to start off the podcast with a little scotch, but being that it's the new year, I've gone with the venerable green drink.
Tasty.
Freshly
I have
Diet Pepsi. The choice of a new generation.
It's what was on sale at Target this week.
This concoction is, let's see, celery, kale, apples, ginger, and some other vegetables that don't really need to go together, but...
If you lived here, I would suspect it was lawn clippings, but I suspect there are green lawn clippings in Watervliet this time of year.
You know what? It really does kind of smell like that. Thanks for ruining my meal.
Yummy.
Oh, okay.
Delicious, delicious green drink.
Hey, I want to start losing weight like my hero Bob did. That's all.
I didn't do it by eating green drinks, so. I had chicken sausage from Trader Joe's.
Nice.
That were 100 calories a link. Mm-hmm. I had 3 ounces of pasta and a half cup of pasta sauce. And all of that was 650 calories.
Very good, very good.
That was my dinner.
I'm going to show you something that won't fall down. This is one of my Christmas gifts. I'm going to make the big reveal. Oh, yeah.
Ooh, Spider-Man.
Yeah, and
like a bank or something?
Yes, it's exactly what it is, but I cannot, for the life of me, remember if I actually had it or if I just simply wanted it. And you'll notice it's got the pedigree on the side there.
All right. Are you going to start putting cash into it?
I don't know. It's kind of neat because he's almost life size, so you can have a lot of fun with it.
You can put quarters in there, and then when it's all filled, you can buy an old Spider-Man comic.
Oh, actually, I bought my first old comic in a long time. I bought an issue of the Batman 3D from 1953.
Yeah.
I had that book years ago, and gave it up. I actually bought it from Frank Miller's brother. It's a funny story.
The first time or this last time?
The first time. I was driving through Vermont in the middle of nowhere, and I had a copy of Overstreet with me. And like I always do when I go out of town to an unfamiliar area, I look in the phone books and look wherever and see if there's a comic shop nearby. And lo and behold, there was one. And I went in. It was a smaller shop. Had some interesting Golden Age items, some silver. And talking to the guy for a while, he's like, do you know who Frank Miller is? And this is probably 87, 88. So I was like, yeah, who doesn't? It's like, that's my brother. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah. So
who doesn't? Well, 99% of America. So probably the 99% of America that doesn't step inside comic shops.
Well, I mean, this is fresh off the heels of the Dark Knight Return, so it was kind of a big deal at the time. So I could see where he would be proud of his brother. But I didn't think anything of it until years later. When
you're in a comic shop. You know, you can brag about Frank Miller in a comic shop.
But it wasn't
probably more so than now.
Yeah, definitely. But it wasn't until years later that I found out that Frank Miller was from that part of Vermont. So the guy was actually truthful. So I bought 2 comics. I bought a Batman 3D and like a very old action. Probably something in the double digits, an 80-something. And I was working at a comic shop at the time, so I was buying for the store. I should have kept them, but gave them to the owner, and I've regretted it ever since. So I had a discussion about 3D last week with Ian on his podcast, and I have a fairly decent size subset of 3D books. You know, probably the half a long box full of 3D books, but that was one that I was missing, so I just went on eBay, saw one, and nobody had bid on it for days. It was just sitting there for 99 cents. So it's like, you know what? I'm going to put my my bid price pretty high, just so I don't lose out, and I won it. So the only problem is it doesn't have the glasses, but I don't care because I've got tons of glasses, so it's going to be pretty neat. But something about Batman in the 50s is just very alluring for kids. They were definitely dumbing down the stories at that point.
Batman would fight crazy, weird, fluffy space aliens and stuff, and just stupid criminals that
just these goofy time travel stories. Yeah, he's like going back in time with Christopher Columbus and all this nonsense. It was good fun. But what I'm also trying to find, and you've been up here on the 3rd floor, I would love to put a giant penny and a huge playing card somewhere in this mess. I think it'd be pretty cool looking. But nobody sells giant pennies. So if anybody's watching this, you can fabricate one, and you're fairly local, let's do it. Let's get this going.
Giant paper mache penny.
Yep. Or
if you had a giant actual copper penny, you'd probably have a hard time getting it up.
I'd have to have Devin help me. Well, let's see. What did he have? What were the... Okay, he had the dinosaur. He always had a dinosaur, like a T-Rex or something. He had the big penny, the big oversized playing card, and there were probably a couple of other trophies in the Batcave. But for the life of me, I can't remember what was in the Fortress of Solitude other than the giant key and the bottle city of Condor and the statue of his dead parents.
He had all kinds of crazy stuff in there. He had big statues of Laura and Jor-El. He had weird alien creatures in that big zoo that he kept, and singing bushes and stuff. He had some just crazy stuff. He had a room full of all the different kinds of kryptonite just because he liked to make plot devices for the writers. And
that's right, green kryptonite, but don't open that box, Lois.
Had a giant room full of Superman robots.
Oh, yeah. Big ones, little ones, all types of robots. So, why is it that only Batman and Superman had a cool headquarters like that? Why didn't...
Didn't Green Arrow had like an arrow cave or something for a while, didn't he? That kind of like basically a ripoff of Batman's Batcave. And,
the arrow car, the arrow plane.
Green Lantern had a hangar at Ferris Aircraft. I don't know if that really counts.
He just had an Eskimo. That's all he had. Pie face.
He had Tom Kalmaku, who would call very racially intolerant nicknames too. Flash had his lab at the Central City Police Department.
All right, so that's our topic for tonight: secret headquarters. On
Marvel side, probably the best one was the Baxter Building. Mm-hmm. Well, I guess Avengers Mansion and the Baxter Building. I mean, that was not really a secret headquarters, right?
Nothing secret about it.
You kind of pretty much know where those guys are hanging out.
Yeah, well, the Baxter Building was neat, and they did, whenever they had the giant-sized comics or the oversized stuff, they would always have the cutaway views of the silo for the pogo plane and the hangar for the Fantastic Car and the labs and the residential areas. That was pretty neat.
That was a difference between Marvel and DC, just like many other differences. It's like they had real cities and they really weren't hiding off in a cave somewhere. They had a place downtown. It was just right there.
And a
landlord. And the X-Men, they had the Professor X's mansion, which though it was out in Westchester.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's not like it was, it was on Gray Malkin Road, so it was off in the trees somewhere, but someone could go there. It wasn't like it was across a river and behind a bush or something to get into it. Who else had? I'm trying to think of.
Doctor Strange.
Yeah, the Sanctum Sanctorum. I mean, that one, I guess he had spells on it and stuff, so just like random, regular people would like not notice it.
Mm-hmm.
But that was right in Greenwich Village. It wasn't.
Yeah, you wouldn't even notice it if it was weird.
Yeah.
It's like the Avengers Mansion. Not really well, it was a headquarters, but it was just a mansion. And the Quinjet took off from the roof occasionally, and bad guys would wreck the place every, 15 issues. Shield. This is what brought this all on was I was watching Agent Carter, and it kind of takes place before Shield, but it had a lot of neat stuff. She worked for the phone company, which I thought was a nice touch.
Well, it wasn't really the phone company, though, right?
No, it was. Well,
it was basically the phone company was a front for the
SSR, whatever. Yeah,
whatever the secret agency was. That's the precursor to Shield. I mean, it's not like he was, working the switchboard or something. I mean, all the agents are sitting at desks doing secret agent stuff. Although they would keep telling her to file stuff and pour them cups of coffee and other kinds of things that these douchebags did for the women back in the 40s. It's kind of interesting how they're playing up that angle. But I mean, it's actually, I think they're trying to be accurate to the time. Mm-hmm. And what I like about Peggy Carter is, I mean, she doesn't take crap from anybody. It's like she's like kicking butt as well or better than almost anybody in that show. But at the same time, she's somewhat marginalized by her idiot boss,
Oh, definitely. And the other thing I like about it is I think they captured the era fairly well. I mean, much better than they did with the first season of Wonder Woman, where they just stuck a car from the 40s and, an army uniform, and that was it. And, some kid in a skateboard would go by. Pay no mind to him. He's from the future. Oh, Courageous Cat had a little hideout there.
I am drawing a blank on Courageous Cat.
Courageous Cat? You've never seen that? It was created by Bob Kane. It was a direct Batman ripoff.
Really? I mean, I know Top Cat, and I know Mighty Mouse, and Secret Squirrel, and Underdog, but I don't think I ever saw Courageous Cat. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, definitely. That is worth watching. He had this one gun that every time he pulled it out, it would do something different. It was the cat car stopper gun, or the cat levitating gun. It was very goofy. Definitely, spoofing Batman. I don't know why Bob Kane did it, but it was pretty popular. Maybe just never made it out to the West Coast.
So it was a cartoon show? It was on like Saturday mornings or something?
It was syndicated, I want to say late 50s, early 60s, but it ran in syndication for quite some time.
Maybe the channels out here just never picked it up.
That could be. It was a good show. That's something that would be worth having on DVD. I do believe it was released probably about 10 years ago. The Titans had a cool headquarters. Kind of out in the river there. Titans.
Oh yeah, the Titans Tower. Well, before they got, that was the new Teen Titans, though, right? I mean, the original ones just had a
hangout.
They have like a cave or something. And they have the old Justice League cave in Happy Harbor. Well, that's what the Hall of Justice from the Super Friends cartoon was much cooler than the cave in Happy Harbor that they originally had.
Yeah.
But the coolest Justice League headquarters, I always liked the Satellite.
I love the Satellite. That was my era. I mean, I just love the idea. It's up there in geosynchronous orbit, 23,000 miles above the Earth, and they could just teleport back and forth. And you had people with their different duties. So it was very cool. It was almost Marvel-like the way they did it.
So, Courageous Cat and Minute Mouse.
Yep.
I have never seen this before in my life.
Are you kidding me? Wow.
This does not look in the slightest bit familiar, although it does look remarkably like Batman, especially this Catmobile with the thing on the front of it looks like that old 40s Batmobile.
Yes, it does.
I don't know what the deal is with the star on his chest.
Well, because they couldn't put a bat. And they probably couldn't put a cat there either.
A cat head or something on there.
Wasn't there there was a Catman, I believe, right? But I don't know if he had a symbol.
It's like claw marks or something, right?
I don't know. We'll have to look it up.
Because Catman was in the Secret Six. I don't know what the original Catman... That's the magic of Google.
Google, what would we do without you?
So, yeah, the original Catman... No, it's always been, it was like in a little, it's kind of like a cat paw kind of a thing where it's got like, the little claw tips and then kind of the main thing in the circle. That was the original one.
Okay.
And then when they redid him for the Secret Six, his symbol's more just like a couple of, slash marks across, like a lion.
Wolverine got to him.
Slashed at him. And then, of course, you get some Peter Criss pictures mixed in with Catman when you just do a search on Catman. And then there are cat heads photoshopped onto dudes' bodies, and
oh boy,
there's some weird stuff that comes up. I probably shouldn't look much farther because I might find
that must be a great idea.
I really don't want to see.
What's coming
it's
up
always
next?
a risk when you're searching for something on the internet. I've searched for, stuff like very innocently, and you just find the most egregious pornography comes up. Like, whoa! I guess that's why you have parental controls on a computer. You don't even have to be trying to find this stuff.
Okay, I just had to grab something. Now, I know you got a cool cowl, but I got this, which I think is pretty neat.
Mask.
Yeah.
What does that come with?
Well,
Is that it?
Yeah, that was a little stocking stuffer, and
that's neat.
Yeah. So we could do a masked version. We could do an all Batman episode for one day. And I got some loose action figures, which I thought was kind of nice. I got a little Superman here.
That's a neat one. Is that? That's
Earth 2.
Sort of Earth 2 Kingdom Come thing. It's a little angular too, huh?
Yeah, I like
that. A little chiseled.
And we got a Batman.
That's an Alex Ross Batman.
Yep. And then
is that?
I got this. Now, I don't know who this is.
That's Monel.
Is it?
Yeah. When Monel came back in the 2000s era Superman comic, he was kind of like hanging out with Superman, and he like got a little Superman symbol for his. Yeah, he spent a lot of time in the 20th century. It wasn't like the original Monel where he was there with Superboy for about 30 seconds before, he had to get chucked in the Phantom Zone for lead poisoning. This version, he was in for maybe a couple of years.
Wow.
In the Superman comic with Superman, and he ended up with the little symbol and part of the Superman family there for a while.
Now, I'm not real big on Legion lore, but how is he related to Superman? Or is he?
He's not at all.
Is he Kryptonian?
No, he's a Daxamite.
Oh, what's that?
From the planet Daxam, and on planet Daxam, everybody has those superpowers. He ended up on Earth, but the problem is that where a Kryptonian is weak to kryptonite, which can kill them, Daxamite lead is what can kill them.
And there's lead.
And back in the 1950s, where you had lead burning gas, cars burning leaded gasoline and stuff, the dude just like got out of his spaceship, and like within a day he's almost dead. He's almost dead from lead poisoning of just all the lead flying around in the atmosphere. And he was called Monel because he landed on a Monday. So that's the Mon part.
Really?
And the L is just he got that from, just because he was buddies with, in honor of Superboy.
Wow.
And to save his life, he put him into the Phantom Zone. Because then he stopped, and he's like, okay, I'm going to put you in the Phantom Zone, and one day someone will create a cure for this lead poisoning, which, you're going to die from any minute now if I don't stick you in the Phantom Zone. And then in the Legion times, Brainiac 5 created a serum to cure him.
Oh, great.
And he joined the Legion.
I never knew that. Never really followed the Legion. Saw some backup stories here or there. It was interesting, but it seemed disingenuous to me that the future seemed an awful lot like the 50s. So it never really clicked for me. I'm sure if I went back now, picked up some showcases and stuff, I might enjoy it.
I always liked the Legion. It was one of the first DC things. I mean, because, I entered DC through Mike Grell.
Uh-huh.
So, the first thing I think I came in through Warlord.
Really?
And because I was a Marvel zombie when I was a kid. I mean, I would not touch or read a DC. I mean, I read like the odd, Batman couple of comics. I read a few Justice League comics, but I never went back to them.
Uh-huh.
When I actually started reading DC kind of full time, my entry point was the Warlord. Because I was big into Conan and Savage Sword and Kull and all that kind of stuff. And then I saw this dude going around with the Magnum pistol and, sexy girls and all this. And I'm like, let me check this out. And I really liked Grell's art.
Uh-huh.
He also was doing Green Lantern. And I always kind of liked Green Lantern.
Mm-hmm.
So I started reading. He was also doing Legion of Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes.
I didn't know that. Okay.
At the time. So Grell did a really long run on Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes.
Mm-hmm.
And that was when they were in their kind of like 70s kind of mod type of costumes.
Right.
Bell bottoms and all kinds of crazy cutouts. And
yeah. So was he writing and drawing?
I think he was at least drawing. I don't know if he was writing them also. I think he was just drawing them.
Okay.
So I know on Green Lantern was probably still, I don't know if Denny O'Neil was maybe still doing it.
I think he was.
Or not.
Might have been.
Okay.
So that would be, what, about 75? 76?
No, I am drawing a blank there. Let me see. Actually, I think I might have it down. Not there. Here.
Oh, and one thing I also did over the holidays was I finally upgraded my comic base up to the current version. So at some point I've got to go through and rescan everything.
Yeah, it was 76.
Okay.
So you're close. So I read Warlord #1 that came out February 76.
Wow.
Green Lantern #90 was August. And then my first Superboy was Superboy and the Legion, which was in November of 76.
Mm-hmm.
And then, since I was reading all that anyway, then I jumped onto JLA in December of that same year,
All right,
1976. So pretty much from 76 onward, I was then hardcore into the DC as well. But I mean, so that was like, I was pretty much, the first 5 years exclusively Marvel, and then I branched out and I was Marvel and DC. But, right before that, and maybe what made me even open to that was 75 was the year that all the Atlas stuff came out.
Mm-hmm.
The Atlas Seaboard stuff, and I got all that stuff. So that's
amazing to me, because I had never even seen it until recently. Yeah, I didn't even know these books existed, so I don't know what the deal is, what the distribution was, but
yeah, they were all over at this, at the newsstands or grocery stores or whatever out here. So I was all over those books, and I loved them.
I got to be honest, I don't remember seeing one, and I probably by between 77 and probably 82, I was buying everything I could get my hands on, and I have never I was buying Charlton, I was buying...
But if that was 77, though, these all came out in 75.
Ah.
They only came out in 75. Basically, between January and August of 75... every Atlas comic came out, and then they were gone. I mean, they were around for like 8 months, and then they were out of business.
But I never even saw them in the shops or anywhere.
Yeah. Huh. Well, and they had an amazing array of talent. I mean, they had Chaykin did some stuff for them. They had Ditko. They had Mike Klug, I think, in there, and Rich Buckler. Just all kinds of, like, moonlighting over, getting a paycheck, because Larry Lieber was, Stan's brother, was heading them up, I believe.
Huh.
If I recall correctly.
I think I just picked up, The Destructor?
Yeah, that, depending on which issue, Ditko did one of the issues of that.
I'll have to check them, because I grabbed a stack of them. Haven't really gone through them yet, but it looked really good. And
that ran 4 issues, I think.
Yeah.
That was pretty much the longest run. I mean, 3 or 4 issues was pretty much all you got out of any of those books.
So
some of them ran 1 or 2.
So you've got this amazing set of talent there. I mean, these are guys that are, in the business. How did this thing go under so quickly? I mean,
I think the exact reason of, like, you never saw a copy of one of those comics. I think that because you had people move, I'm almost, there might even be some research article out there somewhere, but if I had to guess, I would say that someone somewhere, like, pulled some strings to, like, cause the distribution to fall apart and have it be really spottily distributed or something. Mm-hmm. They weren't getting bought in the quantities that back then, it's like, heck, today, it's like back then, if you were selling 250,000 copies, you were a failure.
Yeah.
Now it's like you sell 250,000 copies and you're not only the #1 comic of the month, but you got people, touting you as, the second coming of, look how genius this guy is. He sold 250,000 comics.
I know. I used to, when they put those statements of circulation, I would always read through those, and it was just amazed by the numbers, and it was just, there was no comparison to what was going on back then to now. It's like, whoa, I sold 50,000 copies. I am golden.
Yeah, well, I mean, now they're all non-returning. I don't know how much returns factored into those circulating. They can't have been that many, because I don't think those statements of circulation came out after the fact and maybe were adjusted for returns or something, but I mean, I can't imagine they were pulping 90% of the runs or something, it's just they had to be selling through on a decent amount of them. But the margins, too, I mean, books were 15 to 20, 25 cents, right? So,
yeah.
you're making a dime a piece on, if that, on 600,000 comics. Well, that's still not bad. That's still 60 grand in $75. That's a decent chunk of change.
Yeah.
Compared to like you look at today, and somebody who's going to, well, you have to take the production costs out of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
However much it costs them to print that comic, which maybe, let's say conservatively, they were spending a nickel to print the thing. So, maybe they'd get, half that and they'd make, 30 grand on an issue. So nowadays, someone's doing pretty decent if they're selling 40,000 copies.
Mm-hmm.
This is a $4 comic usually. The retail discount is going to be 55%.
Right.
Diamond probably gets it at 60% off.
Mm-hmm.
So that $4 goes down to about $1.75. Goes back to the people, they have to pay to get it printed. So I mean, they're clearing $1, maybe per comic out of that $4. So they get $40,000 in today's money, and they're not paying the people peanuts like they were paying them back then. Now they have to pay, so you got to think of it, you've got costs that probably run close somewhere between $500 and $1,000 a page.
Mm-hmm.
Putting out a 20-page comic, so right off the top, you got, half that $40,000 is gone. You got your printing expense. I think 40,000 copies. Your creative team is pocketing a little bit of change on it, right?
Yeah.
And that's why when you get down where you're selling under 20,000 copies, they're like, what's going on? And, when you get some of these books that are selling 3,000 to 5,000 copies, it's like the guys are doing it because they love doing it. And,
right.
They're covering their expenses, but they're not.
Yeah, it's a vanity project at that point, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they can't really make a lot of money off of that. So everything costs so much.
Mm-hmm.
I think to some extent, though, the big guys, they make the money back. The artists, right? Not on the lower end, but in the original art market, I think has really been a salvation for these creators too, for artists. I mean, it doesn't do a lot for the writers.
Right.
A lot of people like paying a writer, hey, write me a paragraph, I'll give you $500.
How much is that script?
Artists can sell. They sell their pages and the covers and splash pages and stuff for a decent chunk of change. I think, even a mid-tier artist now, if they actually sell them, can probably make a decent, couple of 3,000-5,000 and up, selling art out of an issue. So
you could probably make some money doing appearances also if you're popular enough.
Yeah, the popular guys, I think, they do all right.
Mm-hmm.
Caffeine. I love it. I'll show you this comic that I got.
Hey! Very nice.
I'll be cracking this later. It's only a 3.5. I don't need to keep a 3.5 in the slab.
Mm-hmm.
First appearance of the Puppet Master and Alicia Masters.
Ah, the blind sculptress.
You control us, Puppet Master. Don't Thing. We mustn't let him control us. Reed rarely called him Thing. He usually called him N.
Yeah, because he felt guilty.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Don't Thing. You misshapen, rocky bastard.
Always one of my favorite books. Never thought of them as superheroes. Always thought of them as adventurers. These are a bunch of people with too much time in their hands, Reed made a lot of money off of his patents, and they could just fly around and do crap.
Yeah.
They weren't. Well, yeah, they were world savers occasionally. If Galactus shows up or some other nonsense, but they're usually just monkeying around, doing nothing.
Well, that's the thing. Doctor Doom would come out of Latveria every now and again and do some crazy world domination scheme, and someone had to slap him down, right? They had some of the better villains, and Marvel. I think outside of Batman has awesome villains. Flash has awesome villains. Back in the 60s, when you look at Superman, outside of Luthor and Brainiac, I guess he had a few. I mean, he had Luthor, Brainiac, Mxyzptlk, and Bizarro. Mm-hmm. But then Pickens got mighty thin. I mean, you'd go into the Terra Man and the Toy Master or whatever, the
Phantom
Prankster or something. Yeah. And I mean, these are guys fighting Superman seriously? Some dude with exploding dolls or something? Come on. Well, let's get realistic here.
I think the other big difference was on the DC side, the villains were just villains. They were evil. They were glorified bank robbers. They were just out to do bad. On the Marvel side, there always seemed to be a bit of pathos with every villain that they created. There was something, he just wasn't born evil. Something tragic happened to this person that made him do what he did. I mean, Doctor Doom's a perfect example. He was an asshole. Yeah, no doubt about it. He was a douchebag. But the guy got his face blown off. And,
because he ignored Reed Richards' correction of his equation.
Right. And
it added insult to injury. That made him even more bitter.
Yeah. And it just changed him into who he became. Now, if you think about it, the same thing happened to Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange could have just as easily been a villain. But, Norman Osborn, just a hard-working industrialist that just was wacky enough and, had that explosion and the serum, and now he's a schizophrenic. But he's still Harry's dad, so, so even Doc Ock. I mean, this guy was just, fiddling around in the lab with these arms, and then, boom, they don't come off. What the hell?
Just imagine, though, if he wouldn't have had that stupid haircut and a pair of contact lenses. The guy would not have been teased nearly as much.
Right. Rhino, they put him in that suit. Suit doesn't come off. Now he's all pissed off.
Did Jonah get him in that, or was that somebody else? That was Scorpion, the Jonah.
Yeah.
Suit.
So
that suit didn't come off either. There was a tendency, if you're going to go up against Spider-Man, you might want to be looking out for there being crazy glue all over the inside of the suit someone's given you to fight Spider-Man in.
Just keep that in mind, Grizzly.
Yeah.
But I think it's pretty neat, though, because it gave their characters a little more depth. And, even like the Jackal, guy was obsessed with Gwen Stacy, and it just drove him over the edge, and he's running around in his skinny little Jackal suit.
Well, you're obsessed with Gwen Stacy, and I don't know, you didn't show me the room with your Jackal suit in it.
Not yet. Wait till I slim down after drinking this green drink.
Right. It's green. Hey.
There you
Jack's
go.
Costume was green.
That's right. When I start cloning people, look out. And even the Puppet Master or the the Tinkerer, all these villains, they weren't villainous, they were just Mole Man. I mean, he was a very pathetic character.
Yeah.
He's just an ugly guy that got the shit teased out of him, and he wound up going underground.
But then the Moloids liked him. Started worshiping him. It's like if you go down underground and the Moloids. I don't know, though. It would take a lot of Moloid worship for me to decide I wanted to live down in a cave somewhere with these weird yellow dudes worshiping me. It's like,
they'll do anything you want for it. Go get me a sandwich. They bring you a sandwich up on the top side. Nobody's doing anything for you. So
yeah, it's true.
And the perfect example is the Submariner. Is he a good guy or a bad guy? Depends on who's writing him.
That's right.
You know, when he's all horned up for Sue Richards, then he's a bad guy.
Yeah. Supervillain Team Up. Remember that book? Go back to the 70s.
Wow. Yeah.
Submariner and Doctor Doom.
I never got that pairing. It never made it made sense. You know, they were both
They're
monarchs.
both monarchs.
Yeah. So what? Go back and lead your people. Stop with this nonsense.
Yeah. It's kind of weirder when they had Namor being kind of a good guy in the Invaders and everything throughout World War II. That was kind of a retcon, right?
Yeah, that was kind of weird.
And then, like, all of a sudden, it's like, I guess they did the whole he had amnesia and everything, so I guess he forgot, being a good guy.
Forgot that he almost destroyed New York City.
Well, when Torch found him, he was just like this hobo living down in some flop houses, right?
That's right. And he burned his beard off, and it's like, wait,
yeah,
he looks just like the guy from this comic book that's still on sale.
See, Johnny, man, he could have made some money.
Yeah.
He would have saved. He was always burning up those comics because he was always flaming on while he was reading it.
Oh, wow.
Flame on.
So do you think we'll ever see a Human Torch in the movies?
There was a Human Torch in the movies.
No. The original. Jim Hammond.
Oh. Jim Hammond.
I mean, there was
movies?
There was an Easter egg in the Cap movie. They had him.
That would be interesting, because they technically could. It's a different character from the Fantastic Four one.
Yeah.
That kind of like thumbing their nose at... Is it Sony or Fox that owns that has the rights on Fantastic?
I think it's Fox.
Fox does a decent job on those on the X-Men movies now. I don't quite understand how they were completely incapable of doing a good Fantastic Four movie. I thought the Fantastic Four movies were okay.
Yeah. They were very
some
watchable.
People really hate on them.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they were okay. I didn't mind them. I mean, I would have rather they did something different with Galactus than making him like a V'ger cloud. I mean, I understand that you can't make him a big dude in a purple skirt with a radio antenna coming out of his head, but there's got to be some middle ground there between that and giant black space cloud.
I think they could have gone with the Giant, and the reason I say that, there's this anime series, Attack on Titan, that's very popular right now. My son has been obsessing about it for over a year now, and it's going to break big here in the States. You can do a Giant. You can make him menacing. I think I told you before I was playing Marvel Ultimate Alliance years ago, and there's a scene where Galactus is walking through the streets of New York, but he's just enormous. I mean, 40, 50 stories tall, and just minding his business, just not interacting with anybody. And it was just so awe-inspiring that, and he had like the big goofy headdress and the skirt, but just seeing him move around like that, animated, it was just like, wow, that is awesome. I would go see that on the big screen. So maybe you tone it down a little, but you still have a giant guy, which is going to freak everybody out. So,
yeah.
And, I'm coming to eat. I'm going to eat all of you.
And you want to really freak people out, you have Tom Cruise playing. Because he's normally such a tiny little guy.
That's right. Oh, here we go.
Oh, you turned into a Skrull now.
I'm a Skrull. I'm a Skrull, Batman. Which am I? Secret Invasion. Why haven't we seen these guys yet? Come on.
I think they're in the Fantastic Four pantheon.
Really? Well, but there's
Their first appearance was in FF, so I think when Sony
Oh, you think they
or
grabbed
Fox, like when they got, that's the thing. It's like you get a section of the Marvel Universe. That license has got to be for these characters and, these ancillary other things, things that were created. Just like, they got Silver Surfer. They probably got Black Panther, too.
Ooh. Huh.
Because, he was created as part of, he came out of Fantastic Four. See, that's the question is, did the Inhumans go with that license? Or are the Inhumans part of the normal Marvel universe? I'm thinking the Inhumans are part of the normal Marvel universe.
Okay.
And the reason I'm thinking that is they have been making a big thing in Marvel lately to pretty much replace mutants with Inhumans.
Really?
Yeah. So there was an event a while back, and there was this Terrigen mist bomb that went off. And it left this cloud of Terrigen mist floating across Earth. And you know how, the Terrigen mist is what activates the Kree gene or whatever that's in these guys and makes them have the weird powers and stuff. So a lot of people it turns out that they have, 20 generations back some Inhuman gene in them. And they just all, this little fragment of this Terrigen hits them and they go off into a weird cocoon and then they come out as, they got some power. And, they still have mutants in the comics, but they're really playing up now. And even in the season finale of the S.H.I.E.L.D. show, didn't they do something with a cocoon and some kind of thing? Did you watch?
I did, but I haven't seen that episode yet, but I know what you're talking about, yeah.
So, I'm thinking that since Fox they're not letting go of the X-Men, right? They've got and they've been doing good with the future past, other kind of, they're doing in First Class, they've done a really good job on those movies. So, you can't have it, but, if you can now replace that same kind of, you can tell the same exact kinds of stories with Inhumans as you can with mutants.
Right.
Well, they're persecuted because they look weird, and they got weird powers, and they, turn all weird at some point, and it's not their fault, and they were born that way, and it's like there's basically no difference.
Right.
In, any, step leading up, and they all just have completely weird random powers. It's not like mutants are just one particular power set. Everyone's different. And in humans, everyone is different. So
I have a question for you. How did they pull off Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch? You had them. Well, you had Quicksilver in Days of Future Past, but you're going to have them in the Avengers.
Yes.
How does that work? Was there some deal? Did they just...
I think there had to be a deal, plus the fact that, if you're going to point back at these things, Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch were on basically the second Avengers team, way back, in issue, what was it, like issue 16 or something.
Right.
And are both really long time members of they've been associated with the Avengers for a really long time. They also first appeared in X-Men, I think issue 4, and were in the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, and
Ooh, which came out first? Ooh.
Oh, they were established first in X-Men. They were first in X-Men, and then they left the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, and that's when they got recruited into the Avengers.
Right.
So they have a firm footing in both the Avengers and X-Men branches of the Marvel Universe. Mm-hmm. So I think that there's a case to be made, intellectual property-wise, for them to be available to both franchises.
So would you say the same thing for the Beast?
Potentially, yeah. Although he was a much more minor... I mean, it was later in the Avengers. There's a long way. I mean, Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch were like half the Avengers team, like
That's true.
within, the first 2 years of the Avengers being around, right?
Yeah, I'm just thinking Beast because when he was on the Avengers, he was very popular. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. I would love to see the Skrulls show up, and with the Guardians, you can do all that cosmic stuff and just ease them into the Marvel Universe however you want, any way you want to.
Well, you've got the Kree in there. I mean, Ronan's a Kree, right? Yep. So you had... Did they mention other alien races?
I would have to go back and
watch. You had the Xandarians, obviously, with Nova Corps.
Right.
So they can obviously bring Nova and the Nova Corps online. Mm-hmm. They have not shown the Badoon yet. And those guys are a much more Guardian-centric alien race. I think they were created for the Guardians. Mm-hmm. Maybe not. The Badoon appeared in an issue of Silver Surfer at some point, and Lee and Buscema were doing it, didn't they?
That was after Guardians, right? Because Guardians was 6.
I guess it was after that Marvel superhero appearance, the Guardians. But it was before the Guardians were like a thing.
Right.
So yeah,
Yeah, because the Guardians showed up and then they disappeared for a while, and then they hit big in the 76, 77 around there.
Yeah, I mean, they first appeared in that one issue of Marvel Superheroes, and then I think the next time they appeared was maybe in like Marvel 2-in-1, teamed up with the Thing.
I used to love that book. That was a great little book.
Fairly certain. Let me... I gotta look that one up.
Aunt Petunia's favorite nephew.
Okay, let's look up Charlie 27. A lot of characters.
He's one of my favorites. The big Jovian.
I like Charlie. I liked Martin X.
Yeah. Wasn't a fan of Nikki. Could have done without her.
Yeah, she came later. Mm-hmm. She came in that second run of... let's see. Charlie. Here we go. Charlie 27.
Wouldn't you like to see him on the big screen? Just to make
that would be fun.
Yeah.
Wow, that was the first 1969.
Yeah, Arnold
That
Drake.
first. That's Gene Colan drew it.
Yeah, I just read it not too long ago. Great art.
So let's see. Guess they don't have team affiliations in this database. Oh, well, yes, they do. Guardians of the Galaxy. Let's take a look there. Appearances. They don't have an option for me to see the appearances in chronological order. So, they were in Astonishing Tales number 29.
Uh-huh.
That was a reprint of. That was in 1975, and it was a reprint of the Marvel Superheroes issue.
Okay. Wow. So they disappeared for 5 years, 6 years.
Yeah. And they were in. They crossed over. They were in Giant Size Defenders number 5 in August of 75. So they were.
Okay.
In 75, they were popping up in a lot of places. Marvel Presents, that's when they got their
own type, their own book.
Their own, they were in Marvel Presents that was February 76.
Mm-hmm.
They were in that for a while. But, okay, Marvel 2-in-1, yeah, 7 Against the Empire. September 74.
Oh, wow.
So that was their next appearance. I'm pretty sure that was their second appearance after they first appeared in Marvel Superheroes.
Can you pull up any information on that book? Who was the writer? Who was editor-in-chief at the time?
On 2-in-1?
Yeah.
Was Steve Gerber wrote it, and it was Sal Buscema and Mike Esposito on art. Roy was the editor.
Uh-huh.
I ate up, like, Marvel Team Up and Marvel 2-in-1. I loved those books.
Because that's how you learned about other characters in the Marvel universe.
Yeah. I mean, it launched these guys. I mean, I think it was because they altered their look.
Mm-hmm.
This. I mean, well, Vance and Charlie look different. Yondu and Martinex pretty much look the same.
Mm-hmm. Oh, but this is pre-Starhawk?
Oh, yeah. Starhawk came in. Starhawk, I think, hit the scene in the Marvel Presents. Maybe he was in one of those Defenders things.
Was he a dude? Was he a girl? I couldn't tell.
He was at first he was a guy. Then they made some kind of a thing where it was him and Alita, right? And there was some kind of weird shared body thing. There was something funky going on there.
It was kind of like the Rick Jones Marvel thing.
Yeah. It was
swapping bodies.
Something squirrely going on. Okay, so here we go. I got it. First issue was Marvel Superheroes 8. I was right. Marvel 2-in-1, number 4 and 5. Then the Astonishing Tales reprint.
Uh-huh.
And they were in Giant Size Defenders number 5, and then Defenders 26 through 29.
Oh, wow.
So they did a long story, and then they got Marvel Presents, and they were in that from issues 3 to 12. Then they were in a Thor annual, number 6. They were in the Avengers for 10 issues, from 167 to 177.
Was it the Michael Korvac story?
Could be. Avengers 167. Let's take a look. Avengers. Yeah, Jim Shooter. George Perez.
Yeah.
Yep. They've entered the 20th century because Korvac, a 30th century villain, has entered time in order to kill Vance Astro. So the Guardians will never come into being.
That's another story that hit home with me because Vance Astro was our age at that time.
Yeah, he was a kid, right?
Yeah.
Who liked Captain America.
Mm-hmm.
So, they were in the Avengers. They appeared in an issue of Ms. Marvel. They were in a Marvel team up. They were in 3 or 4 more issues of Marvel 2-in-1, and then they vanished for another 10 years. So they were around from 75 through 80, and then they were gone after November of 80. And then in the early 90s, they came back in that Jim Valentino Guardians of the Galaxy series that ran for 62 issues.
Huh. So I'm wondering why they suddenly showed up.
And it's funny because then they were gone again for a really long time until they came back with the Marvel Cosmic with it wasn't even these guys. They came back with the team that you see in the movie in the Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning Annihilation Conquest storyline.
Huh. Interesting. I'm wondering if they were... See, in the mid-'70s, sci-fi was all the rage. And
I really liked them. I loved the Guardians of the Galaxy. I loved Killraven and Deathstroke. And
but I'm wondering if Star Wars, helped push this whole thing along.
Could have, yeah. I mean, Star Wars, and then at the same, they were pushing stuff on TV too. We got Battlestar Galactica.
Yep.
That came after Star Wars, right?
But there was some really good sci-fi. You had Logan's Run. There was tons of stuff. The Star Trek stuff.
Yeah.
Was still in syndication. So I think it just seems like the whole industry was ramping up and was going to sci-fi. Even think about the Korvac storyline. That's straight, just not typical Avengers. That's science fiction. Fantastic Four was gearing up. I mean, it was a heady time. Sorry, Batman, you're out of this conversation. You don't do anything cosmic.
I hope not.
Yeah, I just remember how cool I thought Starhawk was, Guy,
he has a cool costume.
Yeah, and he didn't talk much, he was very mysterious and very powerful.
Cool guy. I was a big fan of all the weird, I like a lot of those fringe Marvel characters.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. It was just like the wonky or off on the edge characters. Same thing with the supernatural ones, like Werewolf and Living Mummy and all that. Moon Knight when he came along, I loved Moon Knight.
Wow, I'll never forget it. First time I saw Moon Knight would be, I think, Defenders 49. Who remembers Scorpio? I was like, who is this guy? This guy looks cool. And then I didn't see him again until he popped up in the back of Rampaging Hulk magazine. It's like, holy cow, this guy's great.
That was some of the best Moon Knight stuff.
Oh yeah,
that there was.
Mm-hmm.
Current run is pretty good.
There's a current run?
Yeah. Warren Ellis wrote the first arc, and now Brian Wood is writing it.
I picked up a Charlie Houston issue years ago.
No, not Charlie Hughes. That was bad.
I know, because it's just like, oh.
Said bad. I got to stop myself. That was not to my liking. Not care for it. Other people loved it. I know people who really, really dug the Houston stuff, but I had a problem with that whole era of Moon Knight because I always thought it was cool that he had the multiple identities. You know, it was Stephen Grant and Mark Spector and Jake Lockley and all this. And then when they kind of said, okay, he's got multiple personality disorder, and he, you know, actually, they're not just, you know, like Bruce Wayne being Matches Malone and all this. He actually kind of flips his personality, and, you know, he has these different personalities. And they're like, okay, that's still okay. But then when they made it like just like this crippling mental disorder kind of thing, they kind of crossed the line with me, where I kind of prefer my heroes not to be afflicted by, you know, crippling mental illness.
Punisher.
Yeah. Now that's different versions of the Punisher too. You know, it's like some versions of the Punisher, he's just like, you know, a cold, calculating, you know, Charles Bronson type of character who's just out for justice and revenge. He's not, you know, wacky.
Yeah.
And other times they play him like he's just a nutso.
Yeah, he's like, you know, shooting litter bugs and just killing
everything. That was a dark time, and then they turned him into Frankenstein at one point.
Yep.
And I really didn't care for that, but I know people who thought that was the coolest story arc, and it's their favorite Punisher story of all time. So it's like, okay, you know. It just goes to show that you can take there's going to be an audience for almost anything. It's just, how big is that audience, and, you know, how much are they going to buy? It's just, a company will alienate their entire audience on a character if they think that the new audience that they're going to gain by alienating the old one is a larger audience that will make them more money.
Ghost Rider. Perfect
Ghost
example.
Rider was one of Marvel's top properties for the longest time.
But they just never seem to know what to do with him. He's almost like Wonder Woman. Maybe it's because of my age, but I just like the old Marvel Spotlight, Johnny Blaze, you know, sunsets, headlights on fire, and he's just out doing stuff. Anything past that is just, it just gets ridiculous for me, you know?
They've done so many different things with Ghost Rider over the years. I mean, they had, you know, so Johnny Blaze lost the demon. I mean, first off, they made it like this demon Zarathos that was in him, and he lost that at one point, and he ended up being that new guy, Danny Ketch, took over, and that was in the 90s. So a lot of people, Danny Ketch is their Ghost Rider, and they like him. Then they brought him back, and they had like Midnight Suns, and they had all the different versions of, you know, the people who were Ghost Rider. And then they came up with I think there was a female Ghost Rider at one point, and there was Ghost Rider, and it was like, it turned out that he wasn't really a demon from hell, but he was an angel, but he was a pissed off angel, and it was really, you know, heaven that was chasing after him, or some kind of business. It was like, at that point I kind of threw my hands up and said, oh, okay, I'm out of the pool for Ghost Rider for a while. I'm kind of done.
Wow. Yeah.
They got a new version of him now too, where he's like riding around. He drives a muscle car now.
Yeah, I saw that, and I looked at it. And it's like, I guess technically it is a Ghost Rider, but it's not my Ghost Rider. So
it's another new guy that has the Ghost Rider demon or curse or whatever. I couldn't get into it because I wasn't a big fan of the art.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the art was kind of different.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, again, I have to like it. So I wasn't a big fan of it, so I couldn't get into it. But I know people who really dig it. So, we'll see. It's been going for about a year now.
You know what I'd like to do for our next episode? We should pick 5 characters that were created in the 70s and look how they've changed over the years. Like Punisher's a great one, Ghost Rider,
Luke Cage,
Nova. We'll just pick 5. Ms. Marvel, somebody like that, and just look at what happens to them over the years and just compare and contrast, because it's, people don't realize how long the Punisher has been around, and to me, it's still a new character.
Yeah.
It still feels new, He was just a guy that was in a Spider-Man comic, and then all of a sudden there's movies and cartoons and toys.
Well, it's interesting because some of these characters, and maybe one of the criteria is like, at one point, Punisher was one of Marvel's top characters.
Yeah.
And he was carrying like 4 or 5 books, right? And same thing, Ghost Rider. He was mega popular and just like, yeah, he was in several books.
Should we have Wolverine?
Wolverine, too. I mean, Wolverine has changed a lot. So, you got those 3. It would be interesting for especially ones who got that height where at one point they were just like the hottest thing.
Oh, yeah.
In comics. I'm trying to think of what other Marvel characters might... Do you want to keep it in Marvel, or do you want to go DC also?
We'll keep it Marvel for now because we're both Marvel zombies. Then we can do another episode with DC because I'm not as
Green Lantern is one of those characters.
Lobo.
Oh. Yeah, Lobo. You seen the new Lobo?
Yeah. Okay, Ghost Rider, Punisher, Wolverine. Who was popular? I don't think Nova was ever really popular.
Nova never really hit those heights.
Neither did Ms. Marvel. She-Hulk. She was pretty big there for a while, right?
She was. She's been on the Avengers. She's been in the Fantastic Four. She's had
Luke Cage.
A number of series.
We'll put Luke Cage in because he's popular, but not popular.
He's had a lot of change.
Yeah. This is good. I like this. All right.
Okay.
So I've got
the list.
We've got the list. We're going to say goodbye for now because it is actually probably -2 right now, and I've got to go check the house and make sure nothing freezes up overnight, so we're nice and safe.
If anybody wants to go up the comic spectrum, I've got out a couple of things. I have a year in review of my comics of the week for the 2014. That's up, and we also have a favorites of 2014 from myself and a bunch of the other reviewers.
Great.
I have a hot button where every site in the world has the best of list, where they have the conceit of saying this is the best, when every best of list out there is not a best of list. It's actually somebody's favorites. So I call it what it is. It is a favorites of 2014 because, my favorite book, somebody else might think that's the biggest piece of shit that was ever published and vice versa. It's just, but if I say this was my favorite book,
can't argue that.
There's no dispute with that. It's just saying that's my favorite. But I could, hold up this thing and say, this is the best thing, and someone will look at it. I don't think that was that good. Best. So those are a couple of things that I've put up recently.
Cool.
And maybe even by the time this goes up, I will have up a review of drawer boxes versus BCW comic houses. as well as a blog talking about the different types of collectors that are out there, which might actually make a good episode at one point.
Yeah, definitely. Because I am at the point right now. Like I said, I updated my database, so I got to basically start fresh because there's a really interesting story as to why none of my stuff is cataloged at this point. But some of my boxes are getting older, so I'm trying to decide whether I should, get new boxes, get drawer boxes. What are my options? But I think you're right. That does sound like a really good episode.
Very good.
Sounds like a plan.
Hopefully you'll be okay in the sub-zero temperature. I was freezing on the way home. It goes about 65 degrees.
Oh, good Lord.
I had to put on a jacket, put on my hat to keep my head warm.
Let's take a look and see what the old thermometer says. Oh, can you see that?
0.
That's right, people. It is no temperature out right now.
Trying to know what the heck I did with my phone.
And by
there it is.
By 3 a.m., it should be -6. Good times. Good times.
Okay, here. We'll
compare.
Show you the same.
And on that note, I'm going to say goodnight.
That's only a 71 degree difference. Actually, no, I think it's like it's going to be a low of 55 tonight, man.
Oh, you better throw another log on the fire and put an extra dog on the bed. All right, buddy. I will talk to you later.
Okay. See ya.
Bye.